What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at Clerks, written and directed by Kevin Smith. Now, Clerks is the movie that pretty much jump-started Kevin Smith's career. Now, for the longest time, I was never a big fan of the original Clerks movie. I don't know why. There was something about it that just didn't really appeal to me. It just didn't really, I don't know, it just didn't really resonate with me. Maybe because I saw Clerks 2 before I saw Clerks 1, so I really didn't appreciate Clerks 1. But after rewatching it, I can honestly say that Clerks, it ain't gonna go down as my favorite Kevin Smith movie, but I see the importance of Clerks, and I see how Clerks really jump-started Kevin Smith's career. Now, I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. I love Kevin Smith's movies. I love his writing. To me, Kevin Smith is the Quentin Tarantino when it comes to comedy, and Clerks is pretty much the blueprint for what will become his career. There's no overarching plot with Clerks. Clerks is pretty much a day in the life type of movie. The focus of this movie is this character called Dante Hicks, played by Brian O'Halloran, and he works a dead-end job at a convenience store known as the Quick Stop. And this movie pretty much chronicalizes a day where he's not even supposed to be at work, and that's where a lot of the comedy really comes from. I think Brian O'Halloran as Dante Hicks, I think he's great in this movie. I thought he was really good. What really makes it work for me is the chemistry between Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson, who plays Randall Wallace, who is another character in this movie. Dante and Randall. Again, my introduction to these two characters was in the second Clerks movie, but seeing the beginnings in this movie, they have outstanding chemistry with one another, and it helps that they're friends in real life, and that really shows on screen. Like, you really see the real life camaraderie between these two play out. The bantering between them is really entertaining, and Kevin Smith, and is only heightened by Kevin Smith's writing, his very clever, witty, and quirky dialogue. Uh, some of the best moments in this movie is when Dante Hicks is talking to this salesman who is trying to peddle his gum by making cigarettes bad, and he's trying to make Dante look like the bad guy, and it's only until Dante's girlfriend pretty much puts the man in his place. It's a very entertaining scene. Another great scene is where Randall and Dante are talking about what's better, Empire or Jedi, and it leads to a whole conversation about independent contractors, which leads to this other character who explains to them what independent contracting is, and pretty much says that everyone on the Death Star knew what they were getting into, which is why they're not responsible because they're independent contractors. Like, these are like funny, really cleverly written dialogue scenes, and O'Halloran fits into those scenes like a glove. Jeff Anderson fits in those scenes like a glove, and the chemistry between them is great. Dante Hicks is the straight man, while Randall Wallace is the deadpan, douchey one of the two. But the chemistry is there, and the camaraderie is there, and it works for me. Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, respectively, who played Jay and Silent Bob, the iconic Jay and Silent Bob. This was the movie that introduced those two characters. And even though their roles in this movie aren't really all that big, nor to me all that important, but you can see the genesis of those characters. You can see why those characters became so popular. And this movie pretty much introduces that. It's fun. It's fun seeing the genesis of what would become of what Jay and Silent Bob would ultimately turn into as the years went on. But this is the first instance, and it's great. Jason Mewes as Jay, he is hilarious, and Kevin Smith as the Silent Bob is fantastic. And you would think, how would a character who doesn't say any dialogue would work? Well, it's because Mewes and Smith have a great chemistry with one another. They're a modern day underappreciated comedic duo. And again, Clerks was the first instance of that. No complaints with that whatsoever. If I do have some complaints with this movie, I'm not too thrilled of this love triangle that Dante Hicks was in with two characters, one named Veronica, one called Caitlin. I didn't really need it. Didn't really think it needed to be there. The payoff with one of them was that one of them accidentally fucked a dead corpse, thinking that it was Dante. So at least that was hilarious in a very dark comedy type of way, and I'm a fan of dark comedy, so I can excuse that. But overall, having a love triangle didn't really mean anything to me, especially since the two women didn't really appear on screen together, and one of the characters, whose name is Veronica, gets into a very entertaining and hilarious argument with Dante when they're talking about their sex life, and he's like, "How many dicks did you suck? 36, 37, including me?" Funny stuff. It's that classic Kevin Smith dialogue that is so memorable and just so quotable, and that's what Clerks really is. It's a very memorable and quotable movie, and I've grown to appreciate it over the years. From a writing standpoint, you really get to see the evolution of Kevin Smith's work, and this was the genesis of it. So I appreciate that. You have these characters that would become iconic, like Dante, Randall, Jay, and Silent Bob. This movie set the template, and I appreciate it. And also, to be fair, it really truly did give a realistic look into the life of a middle class worker, because, excuse me, being someone who works in a retail like a business, I can relate to Dante not wanting to be someplace when he's not supposed to and having to deal with customers who are just can be assholes and unruly. So it really is a realistic look into that everyman type of world that I think Kevin Smith did a brilliant job bringing to life. So yeah, there's more to talk about with Clerks, but those are just my overall bare bones thoughts. I do agree that this is a movie that is very, very important from a cultural standpoint. This is the movie that pretty much put Kevin Smith on the map. This was his movie. This was the movie that introduced the world to his style of comedy, his style of writing. It's not Kevin Smith's best movie by any stretch of the imagination. I don't like Clerks that much, to be honest with you, but I do appreciate it for what it is. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Clerks an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed this movie more than I thought I was going to enjoy it, and I highly recommend it for those who have not seen it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the original Clerks movie. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I will check you back next time for more.